Yes, hello, my beautiful friends, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. We've got a great stream planned ahead. There is a ton of activity out there, mostly in Chicago. Things are pretty stinky out there, and the American people are starting to recognize that. We're going to look at some election betting odds, some of the charts that a lot of people on the left have been very excited about, saying that Kamala is crushing in the polls. And then you zoom in on those polls, and they look like they're largely oversampling the Democrats. And they're being conducted by the same organizations, most of the organizations, that are still riddled with a bunch of, well, the same people who run the social media companies, the same people who run the bureaucracies, the FBI, right? All these institutions. They also are in these polling companies. And so we're watching these ebbs and flows. But the betting odds markets are showing that Trump is now overtaking Kamala, which is strange because we're in the middle of the DNC. And the theory would be they should be getting an extra bump from the DNC. She should be actually pulling away from Trump, right? If there's all this enthusiasm and momentum. So we'll talk about that. Now, Tim Walz is supposed to be speaking tonight. And there was a new letter that dropped from 50 military veterans, all demanding some answers and a better explanation about Tim Walz's stolen valor. And so we'll read through that letter. It's not a long one, but 50 military veterans signed their names onto it. And so we'll read it. Now that comes right as Tim Walz is going to be out here today speaking. So a little bit of a preview of what's to come. Then we're going to go and zoom in on what's happening in New York State, because their highest court, the New York Court of Appeals, they're kind of topsy-turvy there in many ways. As we know, New York is a strange place, stranger by the day with Tish James and Alvin Bragg over there. But what has happened now is their highest court, okay, many people would consider that a state Supreme Court, it's called the Court of Appeals over there. They have now decided that there is going to be universal mail-in balloting in New York. And this is a strange one because the people never voted for that. In fact, they voted against that. And there was 150 years of precedent saying that there is no universal mail-in balloting. They try to bring this to the people to vote on it, to make it a part of the law. The people declined to do that. But the New York highest court just reversed all of that and said, well, we're going to interpret this one word differently than we've interpreted it for the last nearly 2 centuries, and just now enable universal mail-in balloting. So it's happening again. Okay. We saw a lot of this in 2020 where the courts just came out at the last minute and changed all the rules. And so this is a big one. We'll read through it. It's a pretty grotesque opinion from New York. Now, some people were saying that New York is a foregone conclusion anyways. Who cares? It's going to go blue no matter what. Blue no matter who, I think is the vernacular. But Trump wants to win that, right? And so that'd be nice if they could pick up New York. And so they're probably a little bit nervous is how I'm reading it. If they're going to suddenly change the rules at the last minute, why is that? Hitting the panic button over there is what it sounds like. So we'll go through that. We'll read through the opinion. It's a big one. We'll hit the highlights and see how New York is rigging another election. Then some big news is bubbling under the surface out there. RFK Jr. planning to address the nation. Rumors are swirling that he is going to endorse Trump. He has scheduled a conference, a press briefing. I think he's calling it an address to the nation on Friday. And he's doing that in Phoenix, Arizona. You know who else is going to be in Phoenix, Arizona? More specifically, Glendale, Arizona, right down the street? Donald Trump on Friday. So very curious. We'll see if after Kennedy's announcement, he makes his way over to Glendale and attends that rally, maybe comes out, says something, you know, like he'll be running the CDC and the FDA or something. So we'll go through that. We'll see what he says. We've also got more there. So Trump was out speaking today, and they've got plexiglass, bulletproof glass up surrounding him. I've got some clips of that queued up, and he actually went beyond those plexiglass walls of protection because somebody needed some assistance out there in the crowd. And so he went out there. We've also got Nicole Shanahan, who's saying that they have been under just a full-blown attack from the Democrats. Lawfare has really, I think, caused them a lot of problems. And this morning on our members only stream, we talked about another clip from Shanahan where she was explaining that there were saboteurs that were infesting their campaign. So pretty grotesque stuff from the Democrats, and it's wild that the independents, for whatever reason, still allegedly identify with them. But we've got a lot to get to today, my friends. It's a beautiful week ahead. Super grateful that you're here and with us today as we go through all this important business as Americans. Now, before we get into any of this, we've got to pay attention to what's happening out there because the world is getting more unpredictable by the day. We've got assassination attempts we've covered here, rumors of civil war, an unstable stock market, and now we've got a looming threat of bird flu. It's on everybody's mind. And did you know that there's going to be a bird flu summit that's coming up in October? It's eerily reminiscent of Event 201, foreshadowing the COVID whole situation that we went through here. And get this, the first topic on here is mass fatality management planning. You see that right there? And so if that doesn't send chills down your spine, I don't know what does. But here's the good news. You don't have to be freaked out about this if you're prepared. That's why the Wellness Company created the Medical Emergency Kit. And every home in America should have at least one of these puppies. They're packed with life-saving meds like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, antibiotics, amoxicillin, even Z-Packs. It's all backed up by guys like this guy, Dr. Peter McCullough. And so you can imagine this, not being frantic, not running around trying to figure out where you have to find this stuff. You're going to have this kit delivered to your door. And so in times like these, it's important to have your medical emergency kit. It's a necessity. So protect your family, get prepared, head over to twc.health/Robert. Link is in the description below. Use code Robert when you check out. You'll save $30 at checkout. Don't wait until it's too late, my friends. Get prepared with our friends at the Wellness Company, twc.health/Robert, and use code Robert. You'll save $30 off and you'll get free shipping. The links are in the description below. Thanks for checking them out and supporting our sponsors here at the Wellness Company. All right, so without any further ado, my friends, let's get into the business on the day because we've got some shifting seas out there, and we're going to start by reviewing what's happening in the political landscape because it looks like the DNC disaster is not looking good for Democrats. They have been trying to create a lot of enthusiasm and excitement for themselves, but for some reason, Kamala is not rising in these election betting odds. Now, she was up and away for a little while, but suddenly she's come back down to earth. Very curious here. Trump is now over 50.1%. on electionbettingodds.com, which is a website that aggregates a bunch of different markets, Betfair, S Markets, Predictit, Polymarket, how people bet, and so on. And so when you zoom in on this, you can see over the last month, the details are here. Once they threw Joe Biden out of the race in that bloodless coup in the Oval Office, you can see this was his number right here. And he was, kind of hovering around the bottom, and then boom, crashes to the floor because he's thrown out like a bag of dirt. Then you saw Kamala come into the race. She's in this pink, and she is just slowly rising and rising and rising in these betting odds. And then you see she surpasses Trump. Oh my goodness, this is the Kamala climax. All the Democrats haven't been touched by anybody who stimulates them in any way for the last 3.5 years with Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. So Kamala comes out and they're like, oh my gosh, a woman probably. And then she is really exciting them. And then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, the DNC starts and we start to actually hear about who she is and what her policies are. One of the policies, of course, is a capital gains taxes on unrealized gains, which is just insanity. And so the more and more people get to know her, you can see, oh my goodness, even in the last day, it's looking like there is change. Trump is up, pulling away on the markets. Now, this is very curious because Kamala should be having a lot more momentum here. And they're in the middle of the DNC. So why would this be happening? Well, Americans are getting a taste of who Kamala is, and it's gross. So here, even the media is upset about this and upset about her. They're grumbling about Chicago. So Semaphore posted this. Says even a friendly media is getting pretty sick and tired of what's going on over here. Says Kamala has ridden a wave of AstroTurf positive press coverage, salivating, hysterically joyous Democrats. Oh, hysterical. We have so much joy with our drive-through abortions and our our vans, right? But to judge the grumbling here in Chicago, okay, the honeymoon may be ending soon. Some people calling it a one-night stand because it's Kamala. But the Democratic National Convention, off to a smooth start by all the outward metrics, has also had a bunch of headaches, okay? Long lines, bad internet connections, featured expensive price tags, limited access. 15,000 credentialed media are sitting around grumbling. It says, we're concerned that the decision to reduce dedicated and accessible workspace by hundreds compared to prior conventions will hinder our ability, says some journo. Now, the committee represents virtually all Americans. The group has been privately raising concerns to the DNC. It's like, hey, can she, like help us at all? Urge the DNC to give us more workspace for the journalists. I'm like, no, we don't want you in here writing about us. Then you'll know you'll tell people who we are. On the first day of the RNC, a smoothly operated event in Milwaukee that offered journalists a very unexpected welcome. They like, this is Trump, he's just the worst. The DNC sent an email laying out what access was going to look like. Now, the committee was horrified that the number of press stands were significantly lower than those provided for previous conventions, even including the RNC, so even less than the Republicans had. The daily press gallery organizations were only given 35 seats, 90 unassigned stadium seats. New York Times seats had electrical machinery underneath them, which the press gallery staff asked to change. They're like, oh, those are just drills and some saws over there. Just shut up, New York Times. Just sit there. In a tense call with the DNC director of media logistics, Pete Velez, the members of the standing committee begged with the DNC, can we have some access? He says, no, we're not changing anything. Get out of here. Other media organizations also found issues to grumble about, unless it's like the fact that Kamala doesn't have any policies. Like, well, they're coming. Or the fact that Tim Walz lies about basically everything. Well, those are just gaffes. Now, Semaphore waited for hours to get into the convention hall. When they arrived, they found what Slate's communications director said was a wildly disorganized scene. TV network executives also told Semaphore the event was more expensive. Democrats value a free press, they said, okay, and our convention reflects that. We prioritize to make sure members of the media have what they need, says somebody who works there. Her name's Emily. So DNC officials were also emphasizing the event is no cost to the press. There's plenty of workspace, so stop your whining, but maybe the honeymoon is over, right? And this is part of what we saw. Michael Tracy actually over on X posted a good explanation of this as well. He's saying the scene to get in is chaos. It's wrapping around multiple billings. He says, Chris LaSavita says, hey, get used to lines, comrades, all right? Right now, it's just a line to get into your little communist event. Soon it's going to be bread lines, all right? You're going to be really hungry in there. So get ready for it. Now, the Trump campaign is using these logistical issues to say, well, they're pretty much idiots, yeah. Bread lines are coming soon, gas lines, you name it. As soon as we get Kamala in charge, we're all going to be in lines all the time. So they're having a bad time over there. Now, in addition to this, Tim Walz is set to speak tonight. And Walz, before he takes the stage, just got the old letter from 50 military veterans who were not happy with him. This guy, Jim Banks, is a husband, father. He's an Afghanistan veteran. He's running to represent the great state of Indiana in the United States Senate. You can find him at Jim_Banks on X. He says, I was one of the 50 military veterans who signed this letter because stolen valor is not something that we can ignore. Says Tim Walz is a liar who used these falsehoods about his service to advance his political career. And every veteran I have talked to is outraged about Kamala's pick. And man, it's a lot of people, including a bunch of representatives. You can see U.S. representative from Pennsylvania, Texas is here, Louisiana's in the House. We got Alabama. What's up, Colorado, Ohio? Tons of U.S. representatives. We got U.S. senators who were signing this list. Rick Scott's on there, Marshall, Joni Ernst, and others. Brian Mast, U.S. representative, U.S. Army, and chair of the Veteran and Military Families for Trump. So they all wrote this. They said, look, Dear Governor Tim Walz, the office of the Vice President is a position that requires the trust of the American people and a solemn commitment to the duty on behalf of the United States of America. Now, as veterans who have served our nation, we feel compelled to address your egregious misrepresentations and urge you to come clean to the American people. Tim, you have stated that you are, quote, damn proud of your service. And like any American veteran, you should be. But there is no honor in lying about the nature of your service. Repeatedly claiming to be a retired command sergeant major, quote, when you did not complete the requirement was not honorable. Nor was it honorable to claim to carry weapons, quote, in war, when you had not served in war, and abandoning the men and women under your leadership just as they were getting ready to deploy was certainly not honorable either. To be blunt, Tim, when you falsely claim military service that did not happen and abandon your post, you diminish the real sacrifices made by veterans who did serve in combat. Military service is not merely a job or a uniform. Those who serve in the armed forces endure rigorous training, face perilous situations, and make sacrifices that most civilians can't comprehend. The honor of wearing the uniform is earned through dedication, bravery, and an unwavering sense of duty. You have displayed none of these characteristics. As you have lied your way through a political career launched on a foundation of a title you did not earn and combat deployment you did not take part in. In short, Tim, our grave concern stems from the fact that the office of the vice president is one heartbeat away from becoming the commander-in-chief. You already demonstrated your unwillingness to lead in a time of war and a lack of honor through your blatant misrepresentations, exploiting and co-opting the experiences of America's combat veterans for personal gain. As a result, America's veterans and service members are rightfully concerned about what would happen to them should you ascend to the presidency. When America asked you to lead your troops into war, you turned your back on your troops. You have violated the trust of our brothers and sisters in arms. Their blood, sweat, and sacrifice are the only reason our nation is able to exist. Until you admit you lied to them, there is no way you can be trusted to serve as vice president. Sincerely, Brian Mast and 49 other veterans, military veterans who served our country honorably and didn't lie about what they did during their time in service. So, very nice letter. Tim Walz is going to come out. I don't know what he's going to say tonight. Maybe he'll say, I'm a command sergeant major. That'll be rich. We'll see if he squeezes that one into his speech today, or if he lies about his tacos, or if he lies about being a head coach, or carrying weapons in war, or IVF. Pick one. There's many different lies. The list goes on and on and on. Now, as this continues, you see another person who's going to come out tonight is Bill Clinton, which is great. So they're going to bring Bill Clinton out. All right, the same people who like hyperventilate about grab him by the purse, which was a fake thing that never even happened in Bergdorf's, in that dressing room in Bergdorf's. Now, the jury said that E. Jean Carroll was a liar, basically. That's my opinion. That's my interpretation of what they said. But they found that Trump was not liable, because this was a civil lawsuit. Trump was not liable for any of the hibbity-dibbity, the old, the big one. Instead, they said, well, all right, I guess because grab him by the purse was a thing, so I guess we'll say Trump grabbed her by the purse in a dressing room in a Bergdorf's. Somebody got Bergdorfed in Bergdorf's, Well, and they all just hyperventilated about that, okay? They said Trump is a graper now, That's the new litany of this stuff. Well, meanwhile, Bill Clinton has clearly a wreckage of philandering and cigars and dresses and all the stuff. Interns, the whole story. And they're just dragging him out time and time again because that's what they've got. They've got Bill Clinton. They've got Barack Obama. They're just going to bring out the old has-beens and have them lecture us again. So we'll see what Bill says tonight. He's going to come out and we'll watch the Democrats just salivate over him, who is, I guess, the same guy who flew to Epstein's Island multiple times, getting massages on his neck and back and all the stuff. So they're going to lecture us about women's safety and victims' rights or whatever. And one of the biggest predators in the whole party is coming on their stage tonight. So that's fun. Now, speaking of Bill Clinton, the FBI is also investigating how maggots got into the DNC breakfast. I know this is a gross headline, but it's a real one. Maggots in a breakfast at the DNC. And you're like, well, that makes total sense. They have abortion clinics out there and drive-by abortions, So, yeah, it totally makes sense. But apparently this was somebody's criminal conduct. Now, here out of Chicago, there was a revolting surprise that greeted Democrat convention goers when maggots were found during a hotel breakfast service. And everybody's like, oh, was Hunter here? Was Hunter Biden here? Where's Hunter? Did we remember to ship him to California with that other person? All right. Oh, it was Hunter. All right. Quarantine the whole building. Get everybody tested for STDs. FBI is now investigating the apparent activism-related incidents. Uh-oh. We can confirm that a group of individuals caused a disruption at a DNC-related breakfast event at our hotel this morning. At the Fairmont, Chicago, someone told WGN in Chicago, our team acted immediately to clean and sanitize the area so the event could continue. We got all the maggots out of there. Now, an FBI van was spotted by the local outlet outside the hotel, which is hosting state delegates from Indiana and other states. Although not immediately clear who were responsible for this, maggots were also released last month at the Watergate Hotel when Netanyahu came about. Protesters opposed to the Israeli invasion of the Gaza Strip have been protesting outside the Democratic Convention in Chicago. FBI didn't respond to a comment on this. A spokesman said multiple unknown female offenders, I guess it wasn't Hunter, maybe it was one of his hookers, are alleged to have entered a building and begun placing unknown objects onto tables containing the food. Gross. The offenders are believed to have then left the area. Where do you even go get a bunch of maggots? Like, what? She's like, oh, I have a guy. Just go to the maggot guy. Okay, we're going to need like 10,000 maggots. Why? I don't know. Democrat convention. Oh, yeah, sure. Well, I'll bring a couple coolers over. One victim was treated and released on the scene. Someone got attacked by maggots. Along with CPD, FBI Chicago is also assisting. No further information is available at this time. Wow. All right. They have a maggot problem at the DNC, which I don't think we needed to read a news article to probably figure that one out. All right. So anyways, what else are people disgusted over since the polls are reversing? Well, Farzad over on X is someone who says, Kamala is now 10,000,000% proposing taxing unrealized capital gains. Okay, this is from the proposal, and we were talking about this yesterday, and I was thinking to myself, she put this in writing? Like, where did this come from? And it turns out, she's basically adopting the Biden policy, right? And saying we're going to continue. This is our policy. This is our administration's policy. So we're going to continue to roll this out. So this fella, Can I Say That? And Farzad also linked to these documents from the Treasury Department. And so I pulled it up. It's a big document, as you can see here. It is, it's about 256 pages. And so you can read through the full thing if you want. But here is the big one that's causing a lot of people to raise their eyebrows. Like, oh, communism, great. So here is the minimum income tax on the wealthiest taxpayers. And so just to be clear where this is coming from, you can see these are general explanations of the administration's fiscal year 2025 revenue proposals, right? And you can discuss the policy. It's a whole big thing. Their revenue proposals from the Department of Treasury just published this year. So this puppy is fresh out of the oven. So we go back to the page that we want to get to, and it is this one. And here we impose a minimum income tax on the wealthiest taxpayers. And so don't just pretend like it's another group of people that is never going to come back down to us. Clearly it is. But here's the current law. All right, they say most realized long-term capital gains and dividends are taxed at graduated rates, 20% generally being the highest rate. And capital gains are taxable only upon realization, okay? So you buy a house, you sit on the house, you buy it for $100,000, you sit on it for 10 years, you sell the house for $300,000. You have now realized a gain of $200,000. So now as a result, the federal income tax during the assets holding period for those 10 years you hold the house, it's deferred. So the government's like, well, we don't get any money for those 10 years. In the case of the unrealized appreciation at death, then things happen. Now, here's the change. Preferential treatment for unrealized gains helps the rich people and gives them lower effective tax rates than if we just ripped in there and stole the money. And it's also racist. There's also precedential treatment for people who have unrealized gains, like if you happen to own the house like that, that exacerbates income and wealth disparities. Oh, it's not equitable for gender, geography, race, and ethnicity. Yeah. So under the current law, there's preferential treatment, and we can't have that. And so reforming this will reduce economic disparities. So they'll make us all communists now. Now, this is total nonsense, okay? The rich will just lift themselves. They're going to pull up the ladder. They climb to the top, happens all the time. You see it with Amazon, you see it with Google, you see it with Facebook, you see it with OpenAI. The tech companies are some of the biggest in the world, but pick any company that relies on regulations, right? Once they get big, then they regulate everything. Once the rich steal everything from the American people, destroy the middle class with COVID and immigration, and once they're all rich, then they can impose this, then you never get to reach that same status because they got their wealth without this penalty day in and day out. Now, under the proposal, here it is. The proposal would impose, this is Kamala's, a minimum tax of 25% on total income, minimum. So that's where we're starting, okay? Generally inclusive of unrealized capital gains. There it is. Unrealized capital gains. So you have not sold the house, but it's gone up in value. So you got to pay taxes on that. Do you have that? Do you have that in your bank account? No, of course not, because you haven't sold it. So where's that money coming from? Who cares? You got to pay it to Kamala. So for all taxpayers with wealth, that is, the difference obtained subtracting liabilities from assets. Now they're going to cap it at, it's going to start at $100 million. All right. So you're like, wow, okay, I'm not even close. So that's fine. So $100 million, not going to affect me. It's only going to affect the rich, is the thesis, until it doesn't, right? Until that number comes down. And I thought they were just going after the millionaires and the billionaires. And by the way, liabilities from assets, right? Who's going to make this valuation? I bet there's a bunch of people who on paper are worth 100 million and they're not. Maybe they're worth 10, right? But they've got a bunch of stock. They got a bunch of stuff that's tied up in other assets. And so on paper, yeah, they're worth maybe 100 million. But can they pay? Can they pay, 25% new tax on unrealized gains? Of course not. It's lunacy. Do you know how much money will leave this country? Many people will leave this country, even if you're not even close to $100 million, because you'll read the writing on the walls. You'll know where this is coming next. Then it goes to 50, then it goes to 10, then it goes to a million, the millionaires and the billionaires, right? All of them they just want communism, and they will be insulated from it in some way, shape, or form. Trust me on that. Now, and they'll just do loan backs, or they'll just create structures. I mean, they're ultra rich, right? The billionaires who have the capability of doing this will do that. The rest of us will not. Now, under the proposal, taxpayers could choose to pay the first year of tax liability in 9 installments. So again, if you have that $100,000 house, it's now worth $300,000. You pay the 25% minimum. Theoretically, right now, this wouldn't apply to you because you're not. It's not. Maybe it would. I mean, if you have $100 million, but you got to pay that difference. 25% of that goes back to the government, even if you haven't sold it. Now we know that you probably are broke. You don't have that, but you can make it in 9 payments. We'll put you on a payment plan. Okay. So you can just pay what you don't have, I guess, sell a kidney or something, or sell your house. So sell your house to give us our cut. It's sick. For subsequent years, then they could choose to pay the minimum tax in 5 equal payments. Wild times, man. This is scary stuff. A taxpayer's minimum tax liability would equal the minimum tax rate, 25%. So 1/4, you're already half of your life, just to be clear about why taxes are so disgusting and sick and evil and wrong. You trade your life, you and me, we all do, for money. We mix our time and our labor with the world around us, and we create value. Then that value is, we're compensated for that in our world by a depreciating dollar that they're wrecking every day. But we get compensated for that. When the government takes that money away from us, they're taking our life away. They're taking our time and our labor. We have traded our time to create that good. This is a labor theory of property rights, John Locke and others, and it's being stolen by the government. They're killing us. Like 50% of your life is being stolen away from you by the government. Now Kamala wants to take stuff you haven't even earned yet. A sum of taxable unrealized gains. Payments of this tax could be treated as prepayments. Uncredited prepayments. Minimum liability would be reduced. And if you die, there's rules. It's a sick thing. This proposal would be effective for taxable years beginning after this year. So get ready for it. Get ready for it. This is what they want. And it's not going to start, it's not going to stop at $100 million. Give me a break. And that's not even a high cap. I thought it was only the billionaires who were to blame. 100 million? Wow. So it's thievery of our livelihoods, thievery of our lives, and Kamala is the person behind it. Now, in addition to that, everything else that they're saying about what they're bringing to our country in the terms of jobs, economic prosperity, we want people to have sound currency so that they can actually save and, get a house, build a family, live a nice life without their savings evaporating due to inflation, due to taxation, due to regulation. So they tell us they're bringing in all these new jobs, right? What they're really doing is lying to us about it. Here's a report from Fox News. Looks like this guy's out at Jackson Hole, probably hanging out with Jerome Powell.
Revisions down. A huge revision down, 818,000 fewer jobs. This is basically the government's overstated the amount of people in the workforce. And even when you look under this, manufacturing was down 115,000 people. So this is a revision down, a significant revision down, the largest in 15 years that we've seen. And it basically says that the government has now overstated the amount of people who are working in this workforce. It shows weakness in the job markets over the past year that we didn't realize was there, but now we know is there. So again, 818,000 overall jobs down, manufacturing down 115,000 in this. And if you just wrote construction down 45,000. So these numbers are huge numbers in revisions down.
A million, almost a million jobs, 810,000 jobs down. Lied about it. Okay, that's almost 2 full Wyomings, as we use here regularly as a unit of measurement. Almost 2 states full of people. They lied about fake jobs. And the jobs that are actually coming in, as we know, many of those are part-time jobs. Many of those are to illegal aliens who are not even supposed to be here. But 818,000 fake jobs that they made up to just astroturf their administration. Back in March, when Wall Street economists still believed the lies that were being spewed by these guys, says Tyler Durden at Zero Hedge, they intentionally used inaccurate, rushed data. The goal of this was to make the economy appear far stronger than it is. Now it's overstated by 800,000 at least, probably much more than that. Here's one chart. You can see this green line is what they told us. 800,000 is the job delta. Lies, lies, lies. Every day we wake up. Specifically, they concluded that the BLS overstated payrolls, or they concluded that. And now the truth is coming out. Here's some more numbers. If you're a chart person, you can see this is what's happening. It's just fake. Okay, our government lies to us about everything. So not a big surprise. People are waking up. And Tim Walz is going to be out today to try to explain what they're going to do here when Kamalamonomics comes into full force with their 25% unrealized capital gains tax. There will be breadlines for all of us, and that's exactly what they want. All right, so that's what's happening there in Chicago. Now, let's turn our attention to the 2024 election and what's happening in the courts, because this is not good. New York courts are now rigging the 2024 election, creating universal mail-in balloting with no, in my opinion, legal basis for doing that other than they want this to happen. We're going to go through the opinion. You can see CBS News says, wow, they're all going to be able to vote by mail. The court, very excited about this. It was a 6-1 ruling that came down from the New York Court of Appeals, which is the highest court there. They call their highest court the Court of Appeals. Lower level courts are called the Supreme Court. It upheld a voter expansion law that was approved by the legislature in 2023 that allows any registered voter to cast a ballot by mail. Now, we're going to break that down because it's a little bit more complicated than that. State Republicans, including Elise Stefanik, who is behind this lawsuit, had argued the law was unconstitutional. Voters rejected a similar proposal, and the chief judge said there's no clear understanding that this is invalid because it's in conflict with the other constitutional rule. And so we're going to explain exactly what's happening about this. But Kathy Hochul, thrilled. State Attorney Letitia James, thrilled. We'll come back to their statements. Stefanik says the system is so corrupt and disgraceful that today's ruling has essentially declared that for over 150 years, the rules were just misunderstood. And now suddenly we get mail-in balloting across the entire state with the stroke of a pen. Here's the decision. You can see from New York's highest court in the state, the opinion, the cases, Elise Stefanik and many other people versus Kathy Hochul. We're trying to get universal mail-in balloting precluded from the 2024 election because it's not lawful. So here's what the judges say. Okay, they came back down 6-1 opinion. They find that the court can declare everyone can vote by mail. Here's the background on how this case came to be. There was a coalition of elected officials. There are people like Elise Stefanik, representative from New York. They come in, they're voters, they're party officials, they sue. There's this act that allows registered voters, it permits, so let's be clear about this, it permits all registered voters to vote early by mail in any election in which the voter is eligible to vote. Now, the plaintiffs say the act is unconstitutional. You can't do this. They seek a declaratory judgment and a permanent injunction. Election's right around the corner. Stop this. This act is unconstitutional. The question here is difficult, says the court. We don't know. Though the state constitution contains no language that explicitly requires in-person voting, the legislative and the executive branches have often proceeded as if our Constitution does say that, and it requires that. So our courts have never been asked to determine what the Constitution actually requires, they say. Now, recently, the legislature assumed that the Constitution requires in-person voting. They said, all right, based on how we read it, it says we got to show up in person. So the legislature, right, the people who actually govern the legislature, the elections is the legislature. They passed concurring resolutions. So they passed 2 laws, 2 statutes, which is the right way to do this, that would culminate in the 2021 proposed amendment. So in 2021, they say, all right, after 2020, let's make everyone a mail-in voter. Now, the court acknowledges that in 2021, the public rejected that amendment, said, no, we don't want universal mail-in balloting. And we take seriously both the legislature's position in 2021 and the voters' rejection of the constitutional amendment. So the voters say, no, we don't want universal mail-in ballot. And the legislature came up with this, right? So they came up with an amendment, but the voters said no. Now, at the same time, we may not simply defer to the legislature's assumption about what the Constitution requires. So if the legislature says, okay, that in order to do this, the legislature found we need a constitutional amendment. If we want to get mail-in balloting allowed, like the Constitution says we got to show up in person. So in order to change this, we need an amendment. It's a big deal. The legislature says, let's propose an amendment. We'll vote on it. The people in New York voted, rejected it. So then, right, rather than an amendment, as the legislature says you need, what happened is, it looks like, is we're going to get an act. So it's not actually a constitutional amendment that amends the Constitution. It's just a statute. That's not actually an amendment. And they're going to change the Constitution via statute. It's unconstitutional. It's sick. They do it in our federal government too. Now, our task is to rigorously analyze the constitutional text and the history to determine if the New York Early Mail Voter Act is unconstitutional. They say, no, it's perfectly fine. So as you can see, on September 20th, the act was signed into law. The act is, now by Kathy Hochul. It permits any registered voter to apply to vote early by mail. Law became effective on January 1st, among other things. The act authorizes all registered voters to apply to vote early by mail in any election in which the voter is eligible to vote. Now, the act provides that early voting application forms may be filed through the Board of Elections or through a mail-in ballot, as long as they're registered to vote. Now, this act came on the heels of a failed constitutional amendment, right, which would be the right way to bring this into fruition. The amendment would allow universal absentee voting. And just to be ultra clear on this point, right, the Constitution is where everything starts. Everything that we see, for example, at the federal level, between the Constitution, the U.S. Code, right, Congress passes the U.S. Code, and they trample all over constitutional rights all the time. This is a common pattern. But it doesn't make it lawful, right? The courts come back out and they say, oh, sorry, you can't do that. You have to go back and figure out a different way to do this. So that's exactly what happened. Can we amend the Constitution? No. but the little dictators don't care about that. The proposed amendment was passed by the legislature in 2019 and 2021, and it explained that the legislature, which dictates how the elections are run, it says that voting by mail required a constitutional amendment, okay? Because the New York Constitution only allows absentee voting if a person expects to be absent from the county in which they live or because of illness or physical disability. So the government itself says, no, you got to be in person or you got to vote absentee. If you want to change that, it's an amendment. Similarly, the ballot summary explained that the purpose of the amendment was to eliminate the requirement of providing a reason for having an absentee ballot. Voters rejected the amendment in 2021, but that's not good enough for the courts, baby. So in 2023, then, the legislature passed the act. Now, the act is a little different. It's not going to be an amendment, so you're not going to need a bunch of effort to get it passed to amend the state constitution. You just need Congress, a bunch of Democrats to sign it, and the governor to sign it. And then suddenly, they get the same thing, but they did it illegally. So the legislature then passed the act, stating that early voting by mail is different from the failed provision of absentee voting. So they just put a different label on it. You see what happened? They transitioned the definition. The definition absentee voting, it's not how they identified it anymore. So they just identified it now as early voting by mail. They transitioned it. And so if that under that transition, now the legislature has power to regulate the manner of the voting. The same legislature that found earlier that they couldn't do this without a constitutional amendment. You can't, sure, you can propose a constitutional amendment. I mean, but the statutes can't override and supersede that. That's the point. The same day the act was signed into law. All right. So they just said, we have power. This is them giving themselves the power to do this in violation of the legislature's own findings. The same day, the plaintiffs commenced this action. So Elise Stefanik, other people sue, seeking a declaratory judgment. And they say, look, the procedures are the same ones in place for absentee voting. Okay, so this new mail-in early voting by mail category is basically the exact same thing as absentee voting. They just literally labeled it differently so that they didn't have to amend the Constitution because they're cheaters. And then the courts are going to rubber stamp it. They sought declaratory judgment and other things. They said, Elise Stefanik said that the act violated the Constitution. Okay, the Constitution, which in order to change anything in here, you need an amendment. It says the legislature may, by general law, provide a manner, date, time, qualified electors when somebody may be absent. And they got to be unable to appear personally at the polling place. Now, although this text may not read conclusively to bar mail-in voting, like it doesn't say you're absolutely not allowed to do mail-in voting, the Elise Stefanik and the people of the state of New York say that the Constitution has historically understood as mandating in-person voting. And even just a few years ago, the legislature themselves acknowledged this. Okay, everybody in New York voted. The people voted for a constitutional amendment, and they denied it. Intervener defendants filed a proposed motion to dismiss, so the government says, no. The legislature can do this. It's our broad powers. Nothing in the state constitution renders this act unconstitutional, so we can transition if we want to and identify absentee ballots as mail-in ballots. Kathy Hochul, state of New York, made the same arguments. Then the lower level court, like a Judge Mercan, declared that the act was constitutional. Said, oh yeah, it's fine. Universal mail-in voting, perfect. Yeah, we can rig those all day. Now the court agreed that that Hochul basically and the people enforcing this act were given plenary power of the state legislature. And so the Constitution didn't say that they couldn't do this. And so if they have the power to regulate the manner of voting, then it's close enough. And so accordingly, the court said, no, sorry, Elise Stefanik and people of New York who voted to stop this from happening. Sorry, you guys are terrible. You suck. Sorry. And we're allowed to do this. We want mail-in voting everywhere because we control it. And We're excited about that. Now, the court also highlighted the history, and the court emphasized it was against this backdrop. So they give us a lot of background here. Then they said that they're allowed to do this. So Stefanik and others appealed this. Now, New York said, well, it's well settled that if the legislature passes something, there's a strong presumption that it's constitutional. Their power to enact laws is plenary, meaning they have a lot of it. And we defer to them. So the question that remains here is whether the New York Constitution stops the legislature from enacting universal mail-in balloting. Well, they say, well, what we just read doesn't actually establish an in-person voting requirement. And just because we were doing this for a long time doesn't mean that's how it should be. They argue that the Constitution mandated in-person voting. They said that specifically the New York Constitution, Article 2, Section 1, says every citizen shall be entitled to vote at every election. The word at. It's a preposition. It refers to in person, at the location. They say in 1777, the Constitution literally replaced the word viva voce, which is voting by voice, with ballot voting. They changed it. The Constitution must require in-person voting. They said, no, you can't vote by voice. You can't just shout it out. It's a ballot. You got to drop it off in person. But they say, no. That's not true. Some people did vote by voice. And because they replaced it with ballots, one could conclude that a ballot's even more transferable than a voice, because ballots don't even have to be cast in person. And so the word at is meritless. No member of the court here accepts the word at. In fact, at, we looked it up in Cambridge Online English Dictionary, it means a bunch of things. And also they look back to 1821. Every male citizen over the age, these were some of the qualifications. Voting in the election district was something else they talked about. So long story short, okay, you see how this is going to go. We get the scheme here. The legislature tried to get universal mail-in voting passed by amendment. It failed. So they just tried it again. They just literally changed the label. They now implemented it via a statute, essentially an act. And the courts are rubber stamping it. And the courts, you can back yourself into anything. Okay, it's a lot of history here about how this is all appropriate. Let's see if there is a dissent on this at all. That's a concurring opinion. So that guy also agrees. Love mail-in balloting. It's amazing. Let's see if we have a lone dissent in here, or if he's just going to say something different. So as we continue to scroll, let's see. Dissenting, Garcia. He says, okay, look. Yeah, while the legislature does have a lot of power, including as relevant here, to make a bunch of rules through the language of the state constitution, the state constitution limits that authority. For more than 200 years, the state constitution has restrained and been understood to restrain the plenary power with respect to absentee voting, okay? You can only vote absentee if you're in a certain category of voter: absence, illness, and physical disability. Just 3 years ago, the legislature sought permission from the people of New York, the actual citizens, in the form of a constitutional amendment. Can we please remove that limit, please? Can we please have the power to enact no excuse absentee voting? Please, you have to give it to us because we don't have it. They explained it was necessary to change the text of the Constitution before they could do it. The ballot materials that went out to potential voters informed them that the purpose of this proposal is to eliminate the requirement that a voter provide a reason for voting by absentee. 3 years ago, they admitted it. By deleting the requirement that's currently in the Constitution that restricts the absentee voting to limited circumstances. Now, the amendment was defeated by a wide margin. The people of New York rejected it, leaving the public to believe the restriction remained. But nevertheless, shortly thereafter, not good enough for these cheaters and dictators, the legislature passed and Governor Hochul signed into law a sweeping no excuse universal absentee ballot voting procedures act. So the people be damned. Your voice doesn't matter. The legislature just told you to shove it. The majority approves, reading the majority of this court, reading the limitation on absentee voting out of the Constitution by undermining it. And then they say, that there was another amendment that removed it in 1966 that we just discovered. So acknowledging that the legislature's conduct with respect to the failed amendment is troubling, the majority nevertheless accepts it, making the people's vote to preserve this limitation absolutely meaningless. They are so dishonest, man. They call themselves a party of democracy. The people just voted on this, man. It says, I cannot join in that result. Above plenary power in politics, the Constitution establishes a limit, long enshrined, well understood, and recently reinforced on the legislature's authority to enact this procedure. The no excuse universal mail-in voting legislation violates the constitutional limitations, and so I dissent. You have to consider the role of the legislature. This is why. Yeah, there's a lot of power here, but it's limited. The right to vote is defined in the Constitution. We have universal rights. We have rights to create regulations. The function of a constitution is to provide limitations. The Constitution limits the government. That's the point. Now, in doing so, in our analysis, we recognize the unique role of the people. The people, we the voters, have in interpreting the Constitution's texts. And policy arguments also do not factor into our analysis. So he says, look, a review of the plain text shows that the people of the state of New York, the voters, intended the Constitution to limit the authority to make absentee voting laws. This is now unconstitutional. Article 2 of the New York Constitution sets out a fundamental right of every citizen to vote. And there's only two categories of voters for whom the legislature has authority to pass laws in which they can impact the manner, time, location, those things. That's if they can't appear because of illness or disability. And so this is the legislature's power. They can't go beyond that. And we have these different concepts that are baked into the rules. Now, the government argues that Section 7 of the Constitution overrides this other section, but that argument fails. Their reading gives them so much authority, so great, is that they can create entirely new systems and procedures of voting just out of their butts, rather than more logical reading that it grants to the recording of the votes. You are granted limited authority, and you're overriding that. Now, textually, reading the text, he goes through the terms ballot and such other method. And so if you interpret the plain text of the Constitution as we look at it now, it leads inexorably to the conclusion that the legislature's authority to permit absentee voting is limited to two categories. That's it. The Early Male Voter Act violates that. In 1894, this court held that the elector must vote at the polls of the election, not elsewhere, case law. The majority now interprets that clear statement with uncertainty. Over 100 years later, this court again recognized constitutional limitations on the authority to pass absentee ballot legislation. They said, no, none of that was contemplated in the Constitution. But now this court seeks to undermine this abiding interpretation. And it disregards the will of the people just to make it more palatable. And it's a total tyrannical act from the New York legislature and the New York governor, violating the people's explicit will. The New York Constitution has usually struck a balance between these two things. We had residency limitations and other constitutional provisions. And so this dissent is very thorough, as we can see. Let's fast forward to see how he concludes this out and review. You can see, man, the dissent continues on and on and on. He says, I dissent. The majority is very troubling. We can expect that whatever criticism of their actions will not have any impact at all. The reader applauds the sentiment, but laments being powerless to impose a remedy. But this court has the power and the duty of a remedy of what happened here. Our failure diminishes us and nullifies the will of the people. I dissent. One judge, okay, out of 7 of them, stands firm and says, well, the people just got totally screwed in New York. They voted to not have this happen, and they did it anyways. So rigged, clearly, as you can see, and they just do whatever they want in New York. There's no semblance of law there at all. So we'll keep our eye on what's happening in New York, because that election is looking like it's been completely commandeered again. We saw this pattern happen in 2020. It's happening again. The courts rigging the outcomes. But we have some other interesting news. RFK Jr. going to be addressing the nation this Friday. Some people saying that he might be endorsing Trump. Very curious. You know where he's going to be making this announcement? In Phoenix, Arizona. Do you know where Donald Trump is going to be on Friday? Phoenix, Arizona. More specifically, Glendale, having a rally out there. And the question is going to be whether RFK shows up and makes an endorsement, perhaps, at that rally in this great state of Arizona. So he says here from Kennedy 24 that he's going to be addressing the nation. You can see 11 Pacific time is going to be the time. Independent presidential candidate will be making the announcement, and I do believe he's going to be doing that from Arizona, which is very curious. Now, here's more on the story. RFK is going to be addressing the nation. CNN and others are hinting here that there will be an endorsement. And endorse President Trump is what CNN is reporting. The speech will come days after his running mate, Nicole Shanahan, who we'll listen to next, said in a podcast that the campaign is considering to join forces with Trump. Let's go, baby. Trump is holding a rally of his own in Arizona on Friday evening. Shout out. Anybody from Arizona going to be there? The Republican nominee on Tuesday expressed openness to Kennedy playing a role. He said, he's a brilliant guy. He's a very smart guy. I've known him for a long time. Trump told Kristen Holmes. Now, the speech on Friday will be Kennedy's first campaign public event since early July. Comes as Kennedy struggling in the polls. Kennedy and Trump have grown warmer towards each other, but in July they spoke on a phone. Don't know what came of that. But now in Arizona, where Friday's event is going to take place, Kennedy's popularity could prove critical to a state that was decided by less than 11,000 fake votes in the 2020 presidential election. A New York Times Siena College poll of registered voters said that Harris is slightly ousting Trump in Arizona. We'll see. So a spokesman at the Arizona Secretary of State's office confirmed that Kennedy is qualified for the ballot in the state, as he has in 21 other states. And so we'll see what that looks like. Very excited about that. I think it would be a great pickup. I think Trump would do very well to bring him into the fold. I don't know exactly at what level. I don't know if we want him at the Attorney General, for example, but Health and Human Services has a nice little ring to it. Little FDA, CDC business somewhere in that wheelhouse. Feels pretty good. So we'll keep our eye on it. Now, there's been more reaction from Nicole Shanahan. She was out and explaining what the Democrats have done to their campaign, and it's been just brutal. She was also on the Impact Theory podcast with Tom Bilyeu over on YouTube and elsewhere, explaining that they have saboteurs that have been inserted into their operations. They've got multiple lawsuits going on, and it sounds like things are pretty bad. But really only like 1/10 of what Trump, maybe even less than that, of what Trump has had to suffer with multiple indictments, raids, criminal charges. Hopefully that doesn't happen to them next. But here is what she said about this, saying from her own X account, says, Trump has had 6 court battles to fight during this election, while we have 9 and counting across the country. And I'm not sure which one she's counting, but we covered 6 at least. By bringing these suits against political opponents, the Democrats bankrupt the underpinnings of democracy. What the Democrats consider common course to win elections is the kind of normalcy that leads to famine, sickness, and civil war. The country is ready for an administration that represents unity. Maybe they can come and unify with Trump. And there's something about her now. It seems like something has clicked in her mind and in Kennedy's mind, like they're really sick and tired of the lying, cheating Democrats. That's just who they are. Obama won his election by throwing people off the ballots. Okay, they tried to make up fake stories about the Steele dossier with Trump in 2016, Hillary Clinton. Then once he won, they made up more stories like they're just cheaters. This year, they tried to throw him off the ballot. It's like, okay, we got that case. We've got 2 ballot cases. We got multiple ballot cases that Trump handled. There's 6 ballot cases at least, right, that he was battling as that was happening. So anyways, the point is, not to mention 4 criminal cases, the Bergdorf case, the defamation case. The list goes on and on. It's been a full-on assault, and I don't doubt her for a minute that they're feeling the heat too, because the Democrats are ruthless.
I have to say there's only one party that has obstructed a fair election for us. And unfortunately, it was the Democratic Party. They've done everything they can, including creating PACs to prevent us from being able to have ballot access.
Yeah, it's interesting because you were saying that you could stay in and run the risk of Kamala Harris win, or you could walk and you could join forces with Donald Trump. When you say join forces, Nicole, what do you mean specifically?
Well, this idea of a unity party, an idea of us coming around these principles of fighting for liberty in this country, fighting for our children's health. We have the worst chronic health crisis in the world right now. Over 50% of children are diagnosed with some chronic disease. This is unconscionable. Yeah. And we are willing to work with anyone who is sincere in their endeavor to fix and address this issue.
Do you believe the Trump campaign and Trump himself is sincere? Do you see a home? You talk about this as being Bobby's decision. Do you see a home for RFK Jr. in the Trump administration, Health and Human Services, something to that extent?
I would fully support it. I would fully support a strong partnership dedicated to this issue. A lot of people comment that in his first term he didn't accomplish many of the things that mothers really were hoping he would do. Made some big mistakes around the pandemic. However, I think that he is sincere. Yeah, I do.
I think it's interesting because the National Review today kind of agrees with you. It's saying that if you, in fact, join the Trump I'm not saying the Trump campaign, if you pulled out of the race, that it would be more beneficial to the Trump campaign than the Harris campaign. Is that a fair assessment?
I think that it's a tight race right now. Yeah. I wish that we had a chance to debate, that we had fair representation in the polls. I wish we had a chance to be on stage, because had we likely would have won this election. Yeah. 71% of Americans want a strong third-party option, and we delivered it in terms of ballot access. Yeah. But they're suing us. The DNC online PACs are suing us to get us off the ballots right now. These are frivolous lawsuits. We've had some of the best people involved in our ballot petitions, some of the most precise, signature packages ever submitted to any of the Secretary of States. We've overcome so much to get to this point. So to even be contemplating this is tough. It's a really hard decision, and we don't come to this moment lightly. We come to this moment because in every single decision we make, first and foremost, we want to make sure that we are representing the best interest of health and wellness of young people, children, and future generations.
All right. So we're happy to have RFK and Nicole Shanahan on the Trump train, baby, because I think they have also been victimized by the Democrats. That's just who the Democrats are, man. They cheat. They try to throw you off the ballot. They sue you into oblivion. They make up fake claims. I mean, goodness, we've seen it. So we can empathize with that. But it would be nice for them to join forces with Trump. I don't exactly know what position they would be in, but we're hopeful that on Friday there is a nice, ringing, thorough endorsement from the Kennedy camp over onto President Trump. Now, he was out today. You can see he's back outside making the rounds, talking some campaign stuff, and he's surrounded by bulletproof glass now. Secret Service is like, all right, this is probably a good idea since we don't know how to climb on sloped roofs. But here is what Trump said. He was talking about Kamala, saying, look, if she wins the presidency, we're in big trouble, baby.
Stairs all over the place. He'd finish his speech and look around. Where am I? His speeches lasted. The nice part, it was good in the hot sun because they lasted for about 2 minutes and you could go home. Yeah. But nobody would come anyway. But we can't let her. She's much worse than him, actually, because she's actually more radical. He never believed it. He just did it for votes. I don't know why you'd get votes by having open borders. She wants open borders. If she became president in 4 years, you'd have 60 to 70 million people from all over the world. And it's not just South America. And remember, they're releasing them from their jails and their prisons. They're coming out of jails and prisons and mental institutions and insane asylums Then we have hundreds and probably thousands of terrorists that have come into our country. We probably have a few here. Welcome, welcome. But we probably have a few here. And she's all for it. And now she's saying, and you see what she's saying, well, the wall was largely built. We were adding space onto the wall. We built hundreds of miles of wall. I actually took it because Congress gave us a hard time and the Democrats were brutal. We had 11 lawsuits and we won all 11, but I took it out of the military. I called it an invasion of our country. It was an invasion. And we built hundreds of miles of wall. And then I was going to do 200 extra. We ordered it. It was there. And we had that rotten, horrible election where we did much better than we did the first time. And bad things happened, and all of a sudden, I hear that they want to have open borders. And I thought they were kidding. Who the hell wants open borders?
They do.
And then they said, we'll give you health care. You know, now they're saying all about how they're getting tough in the borders and how they were tough, except they have a couple of problems. Do you know that we flew in 1 million people, airplanes, over the top of the border, beautiful airplanes. They're flying them in. If you want to stop people, you're not flying them in on airplanes and many other things. No, they wanted open borders, and we have a country that's loaded up with many, many criminals right now, of the worst. They emptied their jails. They emptied their jails and prisons. They emptied their mental institutions into our country, largely. Now, they're continuing to do it. But if you look at many of these countries that we're talking about, frankly, who can blame them? They're dropping their prisoners into the United States of America. They're dropping all of these people into the United States, including their mental institution people. Any terrorists they have, they're dropping them into the United States. We're taking hundreds of thousands of people that were in jail for murder. You take a look at Venezuela, their jails are half. And I'm surprised half, because frankly, I would have worked faster than that if I were running it. I would have had all of them out of there by now. They go to Caracas, they take all their gang members, all of their killers, their murderers, their drug dealers, they take them and they're putting them into the United States, and their crime is down 72%. In fact, next time what we'll do, instead of North Carolina, we'll have our next little gathering in Venezuela, because it will be much safer than being in our country. If these people win, you're not going to have any meetings, you're not going to have anything. There'll be chaos in our country.
That's what they want. That's why they're opening the borders like that, so they can wreck the middle class, get a bunch of voters, and the rich will get richer as the rest of us suffer. So that was Trump. We have a couple other clips. J.D. Vance was also out there today, and he was talking about Tim Walz and his stolen valor. Here's J.D.
Now, Kamala Harris, she gets really mad when I bring up the stolen valor of her running mate. But let me tell you why it matters. Every single person here understands why this matters. Here's the record on Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. He dropped out of the military and allowed his unit to go to Iraq without him. And he knew they were going to Iraq. He lied about it, but he knew they were going to Iraq. Even his chaplain called him a coward. And those of you who served in the military know the chaplain is the nicest person in the unit. If the chaplain is calling you a coward, you must have really screwed up. He claimed to carry a weapon in war. Nope. We asked him, Tim, what war have you ever been in? And the answer is he's never been to a single war. He lied about it. He lied about his rank, and he stood in silence as Nancy Pelosi and a lot of journalists praised him for his service on an imaginary battlefield instead of correcting the record. What won't stolen valor Tim Walz fib about? In fact,
Nothing.
I believe at his next speech, he's probably going to say he survived an assassination attempt in Pennsylvania. I think that's what Tim Walz is going to claim next time. Now, look, we don't criticize, and this is where the media is dishonest here, we don't criticize Tim Walz for his years of service in the National Guard. We condemn him for lying about that service for political gain. It's disgraceful, and nobody should tolerate it.
Yeah, and it's not just that. It's IVF, his tacos. He was also lying about text messages. We also heard about that. He said that he was texting all night long about the Inflation Reduction Act or whatever it was. And turns out he wasn't, because journalists said, can we have your text messages, since there's open record laws there in your state that we can utilize to get those? And they said, no, we don't actually have those at all. So they just lie constantly because that's who they are. and what they do. Now, this was another interesting clip. Trump was out there, as you see, behind the bulletproof glass, and something happened. Somebody got a little bit woozy, maybe had a little faint.
What's wrong? Oh. A doctor, please.
We need a doctor, please.
It is very hot here, I notice. It's very hot. And a lot of the people waited for days to get here, so I understand it. Take your time, doctor. Take your time. Thank you.
Should Trump go check it out? Probably not. Because he should stay in that protective bubble, right? So he doesn't get shot in the head again.
Yeah. Take your time, please.
But maybe he will go take a look. Oh, yeah. And the Secret Service has a heart attack. Get someone on the roofs. Check the roofs. Look everywhere. Is he? Check the roofs. Anybody see any ladders? Oh, man, what a brave hero Trump is. Let's go check her out. Make sure he's all right. Gave him a nice hug. Fight, fight, fight. Secret Service is like, get back in there, sir. Must go faster. Must go faster. Must go faster. I'm not scared of snipers, all right?
Thank you very much. You know, they come 2 days, 3 days early, and it's a lot of stress. We lose them. The only ones we don't lose are front row Joes. I don't know what they have going. They have something going here, Governor. Thank you very much. Thanks, Doctor.
All good. Back in business, baby. So there's Trump just moseying on outside of the protective force field because he's not even scared of bullets. Get out of here. Like little buzzing flies. Get out of here. Not even worried about it. That's our president, baby. All right. So it's been an amazing stream, my friends. Thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait to hear what you say about all of this and more. If you just joined us or you missed anything that came down the pike today, we had 3 good segments. We talked about the DNC and a lot of the shifting polls, shifting election betting odds that we saw after people got to learn about Kamala Harris and the Democrats. Things are shifting a bit. Tim Walz also got hit over the head, politically speaking, with a letter from 50 military veterans who didn't lie about their service. So that was fun. We also saw that New York is rigging the 2024 election by enabling universal mail-in balloting unconstitutionally, illegally. The legislature themselves said that they needed a constitutional amendment in order for them to enable universal mail-in balloting. Then 3 years later, they say, no, we don't need it at all. And the courts rubber stamped it because the whole system is corrupt. If you're in New York, it might be a good idea to get out of there. And lastly, we talked about RFK Jr., baby, sounding like he might be coming out and endorsing Trump. They're very tired of facing the onslaught from the Democrats who are trying to take them out using lawfare and other shenanigans, including saboteurs in their campaign. And Trump was out there on the campaign trail, not afraid of no bullets, baby, not even a little bit. So let's see what you say about it, my friends. Thank you so much for subscribing if you haven't already. We're really close to that big number. I'm excited about that. So if you're on YouTube, thanks for subscribing. Thanks for inviting someone you know to come check out our live streams so that they can have some fun with us here. Now, let's see what you say about this, my friends. It's a beautiful Wednesday. And this is Wednesday from the Addams Family, isn't it? That's Wednesday. And that's like the OG Wednesday, like old school. Is that Wednesday from the Addams Family? I think. From Donut Mind Me. What's up, Donut? We got our friends. Ski Bro is joining us. And what's up, Ski Bro? Welcome. And we have our friends over on Locals. So we also have a members only community, my friends. If you haven't become a member, you're looking for some extra content and some amazing community, become a member. We do streams in the morning, 6 days a week, including on Saturdays. We get to a lot of other stuff that we can't attend to here, and we have a lot of fun. It's a great time. So come join us on Locals, on YouTube, links in the description. We'd love to have you join us. What's up? Rosie is on Locals. Says, Kamala really is a far left radical. This is all over X. And it's a link to an Instagram post, which I'm sure is a really good one. Thank you, Rosie, for the dono. Hey, Donut says, subscribe, baby. I'm sorry, Grant Rasha, a membo, says, subscribe, baby, and smash that like button. Thank you, Grant, for saying that and for the nice reminder. Hey, this old guy says, here's some positive news for the Biden-Harris administration. The Bureau of Labor Statistics and their preliminary annual benchmark review of employment data suggest that there were 818,000 fewer jobs in March than initially reported. Largest downward division in 15 years. Biden and Harris, Bidenomics or Kamalanomics, is an abject failure, and Kamala can't get far enough away from it. Yeah, well, I think she's stepping in it. I mean, she had the price controls comment, and now she's got this 25% unrealized capital gains tax. I think that anybody who knows anything about economics, anybody in business, in private business at all, in the private sector at all, is looking at this going, oh my gosh, even lefties are like, what? This is not good. Because capitalism, for all the criticism it gets, I think still a lot of people understand it thoroughly in their spirit. But great comment, this old guy. We read through that today. Saw some of the charts on that. Sheila Poo, 1,000,000 hugs to you. Thank you, Sheila. Sheila Poo, bringing in 10 membos. Amazing. Guess who got a membo? Aubin Ann in the house. Melanie Hewitt, what's up? So high, I touch the sky. Man, that's up there. Jacob Hydion, what's up, Q Essence? Eric Hoochman, we got Glimmer of Freak in the house. Melody, welcome. Dreama B and Melissa Hardy in the house, brought in as membos, courtesy of Sheila Poo. 1,000,000 hugs to you. Thank you, Sheila, and welcome aboard, new membos. Grab that morning stream, baby. Jeffrey Adams says, are you tracking on Laura Loomer's reporting? I do follow her and see a lot of her stuff on Nellis's association with Lauren Mercon and Avalanche Acquisitions. I have seen that. Yeah, lied to Jim Jordan. I can't send it as I'm suspended from X. She posted a wedding video. Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, so I think she's saying that they were at the same wedding. That somebody, the business partner of Lauren Mercon, was at a wedding dancing with Judge Mercon. Something like that. Yeah, it's very curious. So yeah, of course, we know that the judge is embedded with all these people. It's not a surprise at all. Thank you, Jeffrey Adams. And yeah, shout out to Laura Loomer, man. She does good reporting. She does some very good digging out there. She can dig and dig and dig. Doing good work. Yeah, maybe we'll hit that when we have another New York update. We got this one from Penelope. Says, hey, what's up, Penelope? Penelope Husker, first great membos meet this morning, as always. First great membos meet this morning, as always. Everyone should join. They're fun. They're fun. Things are a little bit more casual. We kind of poke around a little bit. Second, if you're attending the Trump event in Glendale this Friday, I'm thinking about it. So I actually submitted a media request to go there as a media person. I went to the website and submitted a form, media request, and I put in there live streamer, It got denied like within 2 hours. They're like, no, you're not the media. I'm like, I kind of though. Like, we record stuff and put it on the internet. That's what they do. They said no. So, but I think I still kind of want to go anyways. So I'm debating it. I'm debating it right now. We'd have to do it I'd have to go over there in lieu of the show. It's at 4 p.m. So the show would be not happening if I'm there at 4 p.m. obviously, but maybe we'll live stream from there. Maybe we'll just do the whole thing live, from the event. I don't know. We'll think about it. What's up, Penelope? If so, looking forward to your feedback and impressions. And if not, tisk tisk. All right, guess I better go. What's up, Jeffrey Adams? Says, I am blocked because I suggested that John Kerry's daughter. Well, yeah, I think that's probably the reason, It's probably the reason you got banned. It's because of that comment. But Tasadaka says, Democrats worship Beelzebub, the Lord of the Flies. Why is anyone surprised that there would be maggots at the DNC? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not surprised. I thought it came from Hunter or his hookers. I don't know. That makes the most sense to me. Hey, this old guy says, I've been studying the way that the DNC escalates its prior leadership to celebrity status, and notice a parallel. Making leadership celebrities has worked extremely well for the Church of Scientology and other pyramid schemes. So in my mind, it explains the blindness of followers of the Democratic Party. It's just a cult. Yeah, it's blue no matter who, right? They don't even care about the person. It's tribal. It's just very tribal. It's why they all fall in line. They all put the masks on. They all just do whatever they're told. It's a different personality type. Some people need to be ordered what to do. Others enjoy freedom. Thank you, this old guy, for the nice comments today. We got an evening with Uncle Ray. Says a very important fact. When Democrats say that the rich only pay 8% tax, they are including unrealized capital gains that are not taxed right now. It's in the first paragraph of the report that they cite. So that's Biden's fake number. In other words, he's presuming that that's his money. And he's not getting his money. So he just decides that their rate's lower than what it should be. Sheila Poo says, taxing unrealized capital gains, would that include our 401k investments, primary residence? When we are in an inflated real estate market? Crazy. Yeah, it is absolutely crazy. I mean, the plan wouldn't impact anybody as it stands now, worth less than 100 million. But yeah, eventually I think that is right. I think that this would go, it's going to trickle down to everybody. It's trickle down communism taxation. So yeah, I think at some point it's not 100 million, it's 10 million. And sometimes it's not 10 million, it's 1 million. And then, yeah, you got $1 million in your 401k because you've been working for 50 years and you've earned every penny of that and that's yours. They're just going to take it, even if you don't have the capital for it. It's insane times. I think people will flee the country if that happens. Hey, what's up? Amber Talon, what's up? Amber says, we need to talk about the assassination attempt and their effective memory holding of the entire incident every single day. Total government block of cheese. Holes all over the place. Yeah, Amber. So we're going to continue to cover it. I'm just waiting for updates, basically. Yeah, I know a lot of people have moved on from it, but I'm just looking for updates. When there's stuff to talk about, I'm still scrounging around for stuff on J13. We're not going to forget it here. But it's been kind of dead. Congress has been kind of quiet on it. The task force hasn't been doing much. We just read, if you missed it, we read through the last update from the Clay Higgins report, which was the most recent update on it. But that was good. I thought that was actually really good. We learned a lot, that there was another shooter, like a second shot that actually took the shooter out first from a local sniper. We also learned that his body was cremated 10 days after the whole incident, gone. Body's just torched. Same day they announced their congressional task force, they nuked his body. Very convenient. So we'll continue to cover it. But if there's nothing to talk about, then we're not going to talk about it. But thank you, Amber, for the dono and for the encouragement. We'll be here covering it. What's up? Object Class Keeter says, if this unrealized gains in law, watch Mar-a-Lago increase the Trump's value in New York further, showing the New York courts are political since it's only $18 million. Oh, yeah. They'll say, oh, no, it used to be 18. Now it's worth $1 billion. So now you owe 25% of $1 billion. Go get us that money right now. That's what they're talking about. It's sick. Goofy for Jesus says, this tax is how the government destroyed family wealth. Families had to sell property and assets to pay death taxes. It's so gross. It's confiscatory taxation. It's communism to steal your money from you. Goofy, Membo for 8 months. One more till we got a full-term baby. Goofy for Jesus says, my joke. You want a guaranteed income? Just start a government. It's a good way to do it. Then you can do whatever you want, like a little dictator, too. Hey, Sheila Poo, 1,000,000 hugs to you. We saw this one come in. Sheila Poo sent this one, says, if the people of the state already voted it down, then I would think the courts and the legislature can't overturn the will of the people. Yeah, but they just did it. Yeah, unfortunately, they just did it. The courts literally just did it. And the legislature did it, and the governor did it. They just changed the label and said, we have the power now. Those are Democrats. Hey, what's up, Jackie? Carry on, 16 months as a membo. Says, Rob, third world countries sell live bugs and cook it. Oh yeah, I've seen it. I went to China and I walked around a bug market. It was wild. I have videos of it. It was wild, man. Bugs everywhere. Tons of bugs. It was pretty disgusting, I got to tell you. Hey, Voice of the People says, I do think Shanahan's message was real, and she has a point. We have a chance at making a third party legitimate this time, but if we do, we run the risk of a Harris presidency. Yeah, I think it's true. I think it's right. Come on over, Nicole Shanahan and RFK. Come on over. Water's warm. NY says, and good to see you, Voice of the People. What's going on? NY says, the New York case can be summed up like this. Democrats cheat a monopoly over and over. They pass laws for one person to bring back old cases, Trump. New York has a history of this. It's being a den of corruption. Read about Tammany Hall. Trump needs to stay on message. Harris and the DNC are communist-aligned radicals. Stay out of the name calling. Yeah, don't be like me. Don't be. Milo Phone Bill says, registering to vote in Washington State. Motor voter. When getting the driver's license by mail, in person, proving citizenship, the applicant simply swears by checking a box. That's all you do. Just say, yep, just check the box. You're good. And it's like the 32,000 kids who got the notice to appear. Yes, I'll be there. Sign the form. They don't show up. So these people clearly, right, some of them will sign forms that they have no intention of complying with. Everybody who doesn't show up when they get a court date with a notice to appear, that's a mandatory attendance date, and they don't show up, they signed a form that they didn't care about complying with. Think they're going to do that in the election? Obviously. What's up, Knox? Defense attorney in Texas says, happy Wednesday, all. Dems have sued to keep RFK Jr. off the ballot in Texas and numerous other states. Yeah, that's their modus operandi. They also try to get Trump off the ballot in multiple states. They're sick people who then come out and lecture us about democracy after they want to win their elections with lawsuits. What's up? Lowell Skinner became a supporter. Nice to have you, Lowell. Grab the members only morning stream from this morning. That's going to be fun. Hey, Jigam says, here is the conversation that took place. This comes from The Art of the Surge. From The Art of the Surge. Oh, this was the conversation that took place. Oh, there at the thing? Here, let's I'm not sure if this sound will play because we're streaming over there. All right, yeah, the sound's not going to play because we're also because we're also streaming to Telegram. Okay, let me see if I can get this to work. Here is the clip.
I'm going to say hello to her, okay, fellas?
Absolutely, sir.
I want to say hello to her. She's a patriot. She's a patriot.
We love you, Trump.
Right here.
We pray for you.
I want to say hello to you, darling. Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Drink plenty of water, please, okay?
Thank you so much. I had to come see you. Come in. Thank you, baby. We love you, Trump. We love you.
I think that was a promo from Tucker's new thing, so that's going to be great. The Art of the Comeback. Sounds like that's going to be a lot of fun to watch as well. So thanks for that. That came over from Geegum in the house. We got Glocky says, the Democrats so far are pulling up way short on early voting in Pennsylvania. And it looks like these are the numbers there. Panic mode for Kamala says Democrats are way down. Mail-in requests are way down, which is good news. What's up? Spud says, if I were Trump, I would make a deal to all the illegals that as long as you don't have a criminal record, you would have a chance at citizenship. This might be exactly the opposite of what Hochul wished for, and blow it up in their faces. Besides, this will make New York City area red. That's pretty optimistic. What's up? Thank you for that, Spuds. Sheila the Pooh, 10 more membos coming in. Thank you, Sheila. Look at this. Mod My Mind got one. Lovely Uni. Jay Nip is in the house. Jay Nick is in the house. Guy Sparkman, Wild Weasel. We got Mike Holmes, PK, Miss Nell, and Desh gifted membos, courtesy of Sheila Pooh A million hugs to you. Thank you, Sheila. So many membos coming in. Courtesy of Sheila. And Jack Mack is also bringing in membos. What's up, Jack? 5 membos, courtesy of Jack Mack. What's up, James Pepper? Welcome. Y'all Dow Baths. Absent Father. Oh, man, Absent Fathers. John Michelle, Jeff Whitting, and Omnigma in the house. Gifted membos, courtesy of our friend Jack Mack. Good to see you, Jack. It's a beautiful day. Hey, Glocky says, Ken Paxton is kicking in Democrat doors, saying that he's executed search warrants looking for voter fraud. It's a good story. Hey, it's the Munkets. Tony, hey, Munkets, bringing in 10 new membos. Cass, 1954, welcome. Lady FDD, Mama Rocks. We got Gene Crane, Tiffany H., David Stebbins, Magic Stick Seeker in the house. Zach Bennett, Pied Piper, Just Dia, and Krishan Paul. Gifted membos, courtesy of our good friend Tony Hay Munkets, who's been a membo. And bringing in new membos. Spud says, Rob, you should work with Joe, Good Logic, since he is a media person. Both of you should promote your new line of Watching the Watcher polo shirts and tracksuits. Well, he has his own brand. I mean, he doesn't want to wear our stuff. So, the Good Logic brand, obviously. But yeah, our tracksuit line is going to be lit once Joe and I release it. It's going to be great. NY says, okay, expanding on the reason why taxing more is the wrong way out of our national problem of debt. The only way out is to grow the economy quicker than the debt and to cut spending, I think. It was happening prior to COVID under Trump, but it worsened with COVID and Ukraine. Hey, Jeremiah says, thanks, Rob, for opening the DNC chat last night. Yeah, we're opening up these chats now for the DNC in case you want to suffer through it with some fellow watchers. It's a good place to do it. That made it. Shout out to everyone that made it as far as they could tolerate, even with each other. That was rough last night. It was rough. I honestly couldn't even take it. I started listening to Michelle, and then she started saying that we're racists and bigots and life's miserable. And I thought, wow, I remember this. That's horrible. Hey, what's up? Tex Rick says, Rob, I like the live stream idea for the Trump thing on Friday. Do it. Can I do it? I've never done it. So can I, do you think I could live stream from the venue with all the people there? I mean, I don't think I can have like a selfie stick or anything like that. So it'll just be my phone. I'll just be there like, hey, what's going on? But we could probably do it. What's up, Tex Rick? Thanks for the encouragement. Daryl Armitage says, I truly hope Trump wins, not just for you, but for the world. Tell me about it, Daryl. I don't know where you're hailing from, brother, but thanks for saying that. Yeah, the world needs it, I think. And we're all pulling for it. Thanks for your support from abroad. Sheila the Pooh, more membos, Sheila? Gosh, you're so amazing. Bringing in 5 more. Denton Dixon, welcome. Patty H, Artsy Chick, what's up? Paul, last name here. And Jeremy Day, gifted membos, courtesy of Sheila Pooh, bringing in a bunch of new membos today. Thank you, Sheila, for doing it. We got Goofy for Jesus. Says, please post the link of Trump hugging the lady. Okay, I think I can do that. I don't really know where this came from. I don't really know what this address is, but here, I will drop this one in the YouTube chat so you can click that, and I'll drop it on Locals, and we'll drop it on Rumble for everybody who wants it. So there it is. Link is out. Thanks, Goofy. Hey, Jack Mack says, the Democratic Party is filth, recalling the lengths they went to keep Bernie Sanders from being their candidate twice due to his socialist policies. Now they're gung-ho for Harris. It's insane. Yeah, they just follow whatever they're told to do. Fauci says, do it, do it. Obama says, do it, do it. They're going to vote for Biden. They just do it. Just shut up and just do it. Then it comes to Kamala. It's the same thing. And she was laughed at as a vice presidential candidate. She was ridiculed. She got laughed out of the Democratic primary. Now she's their saving grace. It's the weirdest thing, man. Rosie says, Kamala's message of strength through joy is a communist mantra. If you Google that phrase, it takes you to this. Yeah, it's actually a Nazi thing, right? The German people had this organization. The German Nazis had a strength through joy, I think, commission or something. Yeah, we read about it on a Membos stream. Bonnie says, I wonder, what's up, Bonnie? I wonder how much Obama's Martha's Vineyard house has appreciated unrealized profits. Well, yeah, I mean, they're part of the oligarchy. Like, they're not paying any additional taxes, obviously. Somebody else will just loan them something. It's just a loan. I think that's probably how they'll get around it all. They're just big loans, you know, so it's like they're not really doing anything, and the money's in escrow somewhere else. You can't touch it. They'll have some carve-outs for the ultra-rich. None of us will access that, but they'll have it. So what's up, Bonnie? Thanks for that. Thanks for being a member on the YouTubes. We love Bonnie. And let's see what's happening over on X before we wrap it up and go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members-only after party, which is what we're doing over there. Who is joining us on X? B. Torn says, well, the Secret Service got their effect. They moved the crowd behind him, made him sound like a tin pot speaker in a glass cage. And so it didn't work out. James Pepper says, yeah, go and live stream the event. We could maybe do that. Yeah. Fred says, talking about maggots, if I had a maggot for every time the capital gains tax became a nickel, I'd be unburdened by what has been. Wow, that's profound. Yeah, that's profound. Are maggots vegan? I really don't know. Yeah, I really don't know. I don't think so. Because they're kind of live, right? So I don't think you can eat them. So they violated their vegan code. Hey, Militia Teixeira. Yeah, it says definitely fix the FDA and vaccines, NIH possibly. What's up, WECU News? We got TJ King. Says Kamala's interrupting your YouTube stream with Kamala for President ads, which is great. I like that she's sponsoring the show. She's sponsoring us, explaining how terrible she is. Take that all day. Thanks, Kamala. We appreciate it. Okay, so those came over from X, my friends. Thank you for being here. Yeah, Lady Ice shared this one, and this was a great. So Trump was on with Theo Vaughn, and it was a great conversation. It was a great conversation. I listened to the whole thing last night. I loved it. One of the best interviews, I think, of Trump recently. So if you missed it, check it out, man. He talks to Trump about doing cocaine. It's like doing a cocaine, man. Like an owl on your porch, man, homie. Hilarious and great. And Trump really got into it about addiction and his brother Fred. It was a beautiful conversation. Really good conversation. So, my friends, thank you for being here. We are going to go over to locals. This is what it looks like. We're going to go hang out over there for a little bit. And so we'd love to have you come and join us for that conversation. We also do members only live streams in the morning. And we'd love to have you there. Yeah, Jack Mack says, okay, look, you can thank you, Jack. What a very nice dono. Big fat dono on that. Thank you, Jack. And Jack has some good advice for what's coming up on Friday. Says you can totally live stream it. Plan to get there hours early, though. I went to the Grand Rapids rally. The police told the people at the end of the 2.5 mile line that they wouldn't get in. It was almost 3 hours before the rally started. Wow. Yeah, I think doors open at like 11. I think I've got a meeting at 11, but maybe I'd head over there right after that. See if we can get in. It'd be kind of fun. It could be fun. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right. So thank you, Jack, for the very nice dono. Thanks for the suggestion. I think I would get there pretty early and we just stream, talk to people, just maybe stream the whole day. Can we do that? I think we can do that. Just kind of walk and talk out there. We'll see. People are warning me, don't go alone. Don't go alone. Because it could be dangerous. Because of MAGA? Feds? I don't know. All right, but thank you for that. What's going on? Thank you, Jack. Really generous. Thanks for sending that and being so amazing and supportive. We'll figure it out. We'll see what we're going to do. Feds. Feds might try to take me out. All right. I'll pay close attention to that. All right. So we are going to go over to locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. to hang out over there. Before we wrap it up, I want to say thanks to our amazing mods and our meme smiths who are always so amazing and helpful around here. Our friends K Bean, Just Cause, Assassins too. We got Ronnie Cole. No, thank you for the concern in the comment. It's probably not a bad idea. Playin' Hooky, Ronnie Cole, Zach Nichols. What's up, Janek? We got Dog Digger, Economy Pilot, our friend Donut Mind Me clipping for us, Carrie B, Zulu, our meme smiths, Sleepy Dog Lee. We got Nathan N810, Geegum Geegum, Glocky, McGlock, and Elliot, our Doc Master, all supporting the show. Man, we love our mods, helping to mod the fort down for us and our meme smiths. And so, my friends, Plan is we are going over to locals right now for our members only after party over there. We'd love to have you come and join us, but if not, that's okay, baby, because we're coming back tomorrow and we're going to get into it again. It's going to be Thursday and there's going to be business to attend to. And in order to do that properly, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.